How's it going, everyone? Give it a few minutes before we jump in here. Stephanie, we made it. It's just going to be me today. I'm going to make it a little bit shorter of a live. Jonathan couldn't make it, but we're going to keep it going. And I actually want to talk about the new Keepa feature, the monthly sales, monthly sold that they now are giving us, which is an awesome feature. Just want to talk about it, give you my thoughts on it, answer any questions you guys have, and keep it short and sweet today. I'm going to show some examples. So I'll be sharing my screen at some point, and then we will answer some questions. So if you guys have any questions or want to talk about anything Amazon related, let me know. Goat Amazon golfer. Hey, that might be true. That might be true. Speaking of, Warren, we got to get out soon. It's going to be warm this weekend. All right. Let me just getting a couple examples ready to talk about, but then we'll jump in. Okay. 3-figure seller. That's awesome. That's a great start. Taxi, let's run it Sunday. Let's do it. 3-figure, 4 figures coming next. It's going to happen. But all right, we got some people here. So let's jump into the topic. Again, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Happy to answer anything Amazon related, but I wanted to chat about the Keepa monthly sales, monthly sold now chart that they've added to their regular extension, their Keepa chart. So basically, they're pulling this data from what I have read. They're pulling this data from. You may have seen like in the Amazon search results, it's showing you like 1,000 sold or 100 sold. And it's always like 100 plus, 50 plus. So to me, it sounds like Amazon they're giving you pretty accurate numbers on how much has sold. And it kind of like goes by threshold, right? I think 50 is the lowest I've seen. Maybe 25. I can't remember if they've gone as low as 25, but basically, they go to 50 plus sales in the last month. And that's how they're going off of it. And then that's what Keepa is pulling from. So Keepa is pulling Amazon's estimate, but it's a direct number that they're getting from Amazon, right? So Amazon's going to say 200 plus in the last 30 days. So Keepa is saying it sold 200. So what I'm getting out of that is that it's kind of like a minimum. Now it's not going to be too much higher than 200, right? The estimate is pretty accurate, but it's saying could be between 200 and 250, right? So for us, that's really awesome because on certain variations, it's going to be super helpful to understand, what's going to be how much is selling. But one thing I have noticed on the variations is it's not showing for every variation. So what that tells me is that either it hasn't sold enough to generate enough information for Amazon to say, hey, this sold this amount of times, because I think Amazon's doing that on higher velocity items. So I've seen it on some listings that it's not. It's a listing that's like a 5K rank, but there's so many variations that it's just not pulling enough data from each variation. And then I've also seen it where, there is some faster moving items that it shows a ton of sales on. So because it's like a new thing, I think there's definitely going to be some quirks. There's going to be some, it's not going to be perfect, right? Keepa is not going to get it perfect. Amazon's still kind of working on their bug. I guess when you search products, right, it's going to show, you know, some of the top selling products, how many times Amazon claims that they've sold in the last month. It's kind of, you know, it's good for us sellers, but basically for the consumer, it's like, oh, wow, this one sells often, you know, kind of like subliminal messaging to get you to buy because other people have bought it. And clearly, you know, it's almost like social proof that that it's a good product, so you should buy it too because 1,000 other people bought it in the last month, right? So let me quick share my screen. We'll pull up a couple different charts here. Got to make sure I don't give away my my storefront or anything like that. So let me quick share. Angela, I love golf. Hey, who doesn't? If you're not golfing, what are you doing? It's great exercise. It's frustrating at times, but it is a lot of fun if you know what you're doing. All right, let me share my screen. Dogs are freaking out in the background. Okay. Give me a second. If you guys got any questions, let me know. Love to chat. Get your thoughts on the new data. I think it's going to get better and better over time, and I think it's going to help us a lot in our purchasing decisions, especially on variations. I think they're going to hone it in more on variations, and I'm excited to see that. So hopefully we get that information in the near future, but I guess we'll see. Let's see here. Sorry, guys. Share screen. I got 2 monitors now. I'm trying to share without giving away too much here. Okay. So I have this Keepa chart here. And let's see. It's an Adidas sandal listing, men's sandal. And it sells really, you can see the rank. It's a 2K rank. We're looking at one of the top selling variations. It's like a size 7 or 8 in men's. It's a black and white color. And this is what the chart looks like. So we can see that, you know, the buy box is pretty consistent. Not many sellers on this recently. If we go back further, we can see, you know, the rank has always been good on this. There's been a buy box somewhat, but not every time. But what we don't see is that monthly sold. Now, unless I'm missing the information here, basically it does show up in this middle column. And what I like to do basically is just remove all of this stuff just to be able to see the chart, right? So that's so it's like, okay, so what information is Keepa, you know, pulling from for it not to show up here, right? Because it's a fast selling variation. It's a fast selling listing. The rank is great, but we don't see the monthly sold. So, you know, what is that telling us about, you know, how much can we trust this monthly sold number? Because if it's not showing up here, why does it show up sometimes and not other times, especially on a listing that moves pretty quickly? So if we look at the variations here for some context, right, I think we're looking at this one. So it's dark blue, size 9.5 men. That's like a great size. You can see the variations, how it's like, you know, on a really steady incline. It's got a ton of reviews and ratings, you know, in the past. So, but what we see here, bought in the past month, I think that's kind of what they're getting that from. So that's a number from Amazon. We don't see it here. We don't see it on any of these other variations, surprisingly, except for ones that, you know, maybe Amazon is on. But it's interesting. Like, we'll go through some of this data because it's clearly a listing that is an interesting listing. But anyway, we'll see here at the top here. So sorting by ratings, again, I think we've said this in the past, sorting by ratings isn't the most amazing way to figure out which variations are selling. I like to look at what is the ratings history done in the last 3 months, right? So we see like the steady incline went from 2,600 all the way up to almost 2,800. So 200 rating increase in the last 90 days. That's a lot. That is a ton. So this thing clearly sells, right? So the fact that it's not showing us bought in the past month is just a little confusing, right? It's not like alarming or anything. We can get enough context from other information here that this thing sells based on how many ratings it's getting, right? And we can see, you know, went from 3 sellers down to 1. I mean, 1 seller's getting the stock, so there must not be a ton of stock on this. Maybe why it hasn't sold, you know, as much in the last month. Maybe this 1 seller just doesn't have a lot of stock. it's not able to sell. But we look at the variations. Okay, we see only this top one here. If I click on it, it's going to refresh the page, probably bring me to the top. So I can't do that. So I don't reveal any information. But if we scroll down, we can see Amazon is on some of these listings, right? It's the black size 9, very common one, black size 8. So basically all the ones Amazon's on where they're priced really low, it's telling you how many times it says sold in the last month. Now, maybe I'll click on one of these and then unshare my screen so we can actually see the chart here. But we can see the ratings have gone up 398 all the way up to 431. So it's not a crazy increase. But the fact that, Keepa is telling us that this has sold 900 times in the last month doesn't quite correlate with the increase in ratings count, right? We would expect a way larger increase in ratings count for 900 sales. Like we said at the beginning, this listing here went from 2,600 all the way up to almost 2,800. So a 200 ratings increase in the last 90 days, when this one, only increased maybe 50 ratings, right? In the same time frame. So why would this one sell 1,000 times and that other one not even have 50 plus sales? So that's where I'm like, okay, we either Keepa doesn't have it all the way figured out, or it's just, still in the beta testing stage, and we really need to, take this information with a grain of salt. It's great to see, right? Like if Amazon were to go out of stock on a listing like this that sells so often, clearly that's something we want to track, and we understand this stuff sells. Let's buy some of this, or let's really keep an eye on it. So if Amazon goes out of stock, we can, get on this listing because it sells super fast. Another thing we can, pay attention to, why does it have less ratings than others? Tracking since is a good column. So it looks like none of these were added to the listing super recently, but which is confusing why it doesn't have a ton of ratings. If we go back far enough, there might have been a big drop off in the ratings recently. Doesn't look like that's the case here, but apparently this one sells a ton. So let me stop sharing my screen quick. I'll open this listing back up and we'll take a look here. So I'm going to look at the one we just showed. So it's going to be the men's size 8 in the black. It's selling for $18. Amazon is on the listing, but so are other sellers. Okay, now I can share again. Present my screen. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so what we're seeing here, yeah, this is so weird how what happened here with the sellers. A bunch of sellers dropped off the listing, but anyway, let's ignore that for now. We can see now we finally have the monthly sold. So just to give us the scale a little bit easier, we're going to remove all of these other filters on here, and basically we're just going to look at the monthly sold. So we can see, in January, basically it hit a low in February, which middle of winter, people aren't buying slides, makes sense. So basically what we're seeing here is that, now that spring is coming, people are wearing sandals more often. We're sitting all the way up at, 1,000 monthly sold. So what is dictating this increase here, right? We can look at some of the information. We can see the ratings is going up pretty steadily ever since February, since we kind of hit that lull. And then, maybe that's where the secret sauce comes in. Keepa is tracking this information, and it knows that, Amazon is saying that, this only was selling 400 times a month back in the beginning of March. And now by the end of March, it's selling 1,000 times per month. So we can see that increase in velocity. That information is really important, especially on, seasonal items, right? You might see the history of what happened last year, right? Did it go from, did a seasonal item go from 10 sales a month all the way up to 3,000 in a 1 week span, 3 week span? Back to school is going to be really important to see those trends, or did it only increase, maybe it only doubled in its sales from, beginning of the holiday to after the holiday, right? So this information is going to be super important. Can we fully trust it? Again, we see a flat line of 1,000. Is it actually selling 1,000? Does it fluctuate? Is it more than that, but it hasn't quite updated? It's just a little bit weird seeing we see these nice sharp increases here, but then it just flatlines at 1,000. Again, the data is not crazy accurate in my mind, but the trend is, I think, what's going to be super important here, because again, you can't just look at one data point and say, oh, 1,000 sales a month. You can't just take a snapshot of this information here. We need to see trends. We need to see what happens over time. And I bet you, let's see, does it track all the way to last year? So we don't see all that much data from last year. I don't know if it goes back that far. Maybe that's when Amazon started showing these monthly numbers. But again, doesn't make a ton of sense. Like, okay, I guess when we see like a little bit colder temperatures in November, we see this bottom out, and then we see this big increase again with December sales, right? With Christmas presents and everything like that. So this thing shot all the way up from 200 monthly sales all the way to 900, almost 1,000 at its peak, and then we see that leveling off. So the trend makes sense, right? The trend is exactly what we would expect for a seasonal item, not really seasonal, but an item that definitely sells better in the warmer weather than the cold weather. So that information is super important. And we're seeing the trend. The trend's making sense. So that's kind of how we can correlate the data and understand if it's actually worth trusting or if it's not. So like I said, this 1,000 a month, like, does this sandal actually sell 1,000 a month? We don't really know. So we're not going to make, insane buying decisions based off of like, okay, let's buy 300 of them because there's only 20 sellers on the listing and, they only have, 100 in stock. So we should be able to sell a ton of these. Well, is that actually the case? Because, we see this increase and then we see it flat. I'm like, why would it not keep increasing? Look at the rate of which this is increasing, right? We'd expect it to go a little bit higher before we see just a straight flat line. So the information could be off by a little bit, but we do know that there is an increase, and it makes sense with just seasonality of winter or summer and winter items, right? We know that we see like this little downtick in rank based on like it's warmer weather. The product is definitely selling quicker. So that's all good information to know. Let me pull up one more listing here. This is another fast moving listing. Seth, how's it going, dude? Free game, of course, dude. Always giving free game here. Okay, so I think I'm sharing my screen correctly this time. Let's try again here without giving away any personal. Okay, so this is a Nike short, fast selling listing. You can see that. Let's go back a ways. So we see the rank has basically always been, especially in the summertime, below 5K. The rank goes away here for some reason, whatever. We know that it sells really fast. It's always sold pretty quickly. If we go back the last 3 months, see that, it's another one of those items that sell faster in the summertime than the wintertime. Obviously, basketball shorts are going to do that. So we can see 6,000 rank was kind of the peak back in January, post-Christmas sales, everything slowed down. Now we're seeing that uptick in velocity again. And we went from, 6,000 all the way to sub 1,000. And the monthly sales has showed that exact trend. So that's what we like to see, right? We're not just taking this monthly sales and saying, all right, Amazon or, Keepa says it sells 800 times per month. There's only 300 in stock, which means I need to buy 500 units, right? That's just not smart to just look at this information. But we want to make correlations with the rest of the Keepa data that we look at, anyway, and make sure that it makes sense to really give us a better understanding of how much it's actually selling. So let's see here. So we see that rank go down. We see the monthly sales go up. So that correlation is good, right? We do see the review counts go up. I don't think I'm looking at a specific variation, so I guess that doesn't matter too much. But we do like to see that the rank correlates with the increase in the monthly sales, and those trends are important, right? That's what we want to see. We see the same trend here, right? Once summer weather starts to go and it gets a little bit colder, we hit November, we bottom out. 300 sales a month. Then we go up because of the December sales. Christmas, goes crazy. And then we see this drop off again. Middle of winter, nobody's buying shorts. And again, this is a specific variation, still selling 200 times per month. So this product sells fast, but it seems like that's the only time it's showing up on products that sell super quick. So then we start to see this uptick again. So I'm curious to see like middle of summer, what does this do? When this rank is sitting at, 1,000 sales rank for months at a time, do we see this kind of hit a plateau at some point? Will we see it surpass Christmas sales? All this is good information, and again, I don't think this data is going to go back super far because it wasn't tracking for that long. Like, this isn't like some really old feature. This is kind of a new thing. So the more data we get, the more we can identify the trends, and then that's going to give us all this information to slowly increase our maybe quantities that we're buying, because we know that the listing actually sells more than we had estimated in the past. right? We could look at this variation and say, how much do we think we could sell here? We're looking at, let me just click on one of these for a second. So this one's saying that it sells 900 times per month. We're looking at a estimated sales of 8,700. All right, give me a second. Give me a second. Okay. All right, let's add it back here. All right, so we see this one again. This is Nike basketball short. Some of you probably have sold this in the past. It sells super fast. If you can get it profitable, awesome. So this is the one I clicked on because it's got a buy box. We can see 8% of the rating. So if we take, 8,000, let me just grab my calculator. Let's do some math here just to see what the numbers are. Do they line up, right? That's what we're just trying to make sure that this data is actually trustworthy, because just because it's a new feature and it, tells us information that looks great doesn't mean it's actually great. That's what we're trying to figure out here. So times 0.08. So 8,700 sales per month times, that's a seller amp estimate, times 0.08. Because that's 8% of the rating. So it says it sells 696 times per month. So basically 700 times per month. Monthly sales 900. So not exact, but we're close, right? And maybe this number is because the sales rank is so low that we could see these, certain pairs might sell an extra 100 times per month without, the ratings percentage changing all that much. Because if you think about it, the ratings percentage, let's just go back to the variations here. Like we're seeing 894 ratings, but even if this goes up, let's add 100 here. So 894, it's hard to do total ratings here. But to get, let's just say a 1% increase, that's a little tricky. So basically how to increase the percentage here, we'd have to get a certain amount of reviews based on the total amount of ratings on the listing. So if this listing has 5,000 ratings in every variation combined, how much does this have to go up for this 8% to turn into 9%, right? And then 9% of the total sales per month, right? That'll show an increase in certain sales. So it's a little tough to see large swings in these numbers if the data changes in the recent past. So if we see that there's a large increase in sales per month, the variations, big picture might show us something, but recently it's not going to be maybe as accurate as this monthly sold. So the monthly sold could be, even more help for seeing current trends compared to, the variations. There's been so many ratings like these numbers, 894, this could have been the second fastest selling variation for the last 3 years. So it's always going to be in this slot here, but how many times is it actually selling? This is an estimate, right? We could see it did level out, didn't get hardly any ratings for almost a month here in February. And then all of a sudden now we start to see this uptick. Is that the trend? Is that the case in all of them? Did any of these sell faster in February, right? So we want to see what's happening recently. These percentages give us a big picture number, but it's not giving us recent trends. So maybe that's what we're getting the monthly sold. We're seeing these monthly trends. So to me, that information's, pretty important, and hopefully, it continues to get better and we're able to trust it more, right? It's a great, these numbers are awesome, but I just don't fully trust it yet, only because, I really just want to, make sure that, especially if it's showing on smaller, these are obviously selling super fast. So you could buy 100 units, you're going to sell them eventually. You can buy 10 units. Those are going to sell fast. You can buy 200 units, probably going to sell them, maybe not in a month, but you're going to sell them eventually if you're priced competitively. What is going to be helpful is on other listings that are showing it's showing 50 sales a month and it goes up to 200 during the peak selling time or a seasonal item, right? That's where it's the trend that really gives us that competitive edge to other people that don't have this information. But how much can we trust it? So I think some testing is going to have to happen, but the information's here and it's going to be super helpful in the long term. I guarantee you that. The monthly sold, that's just taking the guessing out of a lot of things, especially if we can trust the data. So Yeah, that's kind of my take on that. I hope I didn't ramble too much for you guys. I've had these shorts on for 10 days, zero sold. Angela, definitely double check that you're priced competitively. If you're not repricing an item that moves super quickly like this, the price is going to fluctuate. Even if it's a few cents, it's going to fluctuate a ton because it's moving so fast. The people that are buying this, Amazon's trying to optimize who's purchasing this and which seller they can to get the product to the customer the fastest. So, one seller might be buying at noon, but Amazon's going to say this seller gets the buy box for that buyer because they're only, they can guarantee 1 day delivery, but someone else could be buying at 12:02. The buy box is going to change because they're on the other side of the country and a different seller can get it to them in a day. So on these faster moving listings, Amazon is rotating the buy box a ton because they want each customer to have the best opportunity for that 2 day shipping or even a 1 day shipping. So price isn't going to matter, as much on listing that sells so quickly like this. So but you need to be priced competitively. You need to be getting the buy box because it's going to rotate. And if you don't have the buy box, or if you're not priced competitively, the buy box is going to not rotate to you. So that's one tip that I have. You got a nice emoji in there. I can't add products, 2 different size, name, short. I can only add one. It will remove my listing of inventory page. I can't add products, 2 different sizes, same short. Double check that you're not adding the same ASIN. If each short, different size, different color is going to have a different ASIN. You should be able to add multiple ASINs. So unless there's a duplicate, I don't see how there's an issue there. So otherwise, you'll have to reach out to customer support if there's some issue with your account not being able to list those two. But otherwise, not really sure how that's going to become an issue. Sorry, I couldn't give you maybe a better answer there. I'm going to go for maybe 2-3 more minutes. So if you guys have any last minute questions, any comments on the monthly sold, be happy to answer, but going to wrap it up a little bit more here. We don't have the banter back and forth from Jonathan. Duke does Amazon, but still wanted to make it work today. Give some people some fresh content for the week. But monthly sold. I think it's long term. It's going to be a game changer. I don't think right now it's helpful for sure, but we got to be able to trust the data with anything new and with any Keepa data set. You can't just take one thing and say, "Yep, that's going to make me purchase it." You got to stack the context of all the different clues, right? We got the data offers tab, we got variations, we got buy box statistics. All the information should still be factored in. This is just another piece to the puzzle that's going to give us, more confidence to buy the product that we're buying. Got a return over a month ago. I have no update. Next step. So sometimes what happens when you get a return is it goes back into Amazon's inventory. If the product is not sellable, it's going to go to your unsellable and then a removal order will get scheduled. Sometimes that can take up to like 2 or 3 months, depending on when you have removal order time frequency set. So I would check your unfulfillable items. I would check your unfulfillable inventory, and that you might find that it's in a state where it can't be resold in a new condition. And then if you have removal order as your default set to those types of products, then it could take up to a month, 2 months to get sent back to you. So hopefully that clears things up. If not, let's see, what else could it be? I have no update. Next step, got to return. Also you can go back to like that order ID if you have it and double check the status. Sometimes it'll let you know what happened to that product. But if you look at the unfulfillable items, chances are it's there. If it is good, sometimes if it can be resold in new condition, sometimes Amazon just takes a little while to get it back in your inventory, but you will see that sale go through eventually. Angela, thank you. Different ASIN, been on with customer support all day. Yeah, it's a little tricky. I guess that's probably a question that they're going to have to answer for you, but kind of a bummer that you have 2 products, different variations. I buy that stuff all the time where it's, not just one variation is profitable. You can buy different size, the medium, large, XL is all going to be profitable. It's just a bummer they're making it hard for you to purchase. All right. Time for one more question, and then we'll wrap it up here. Anybody have one more question for me? All right. I'll give it a. Oh, we do got a question. Let's go. A little off topic, but what's your thoughts on seller repacking sneakers in brown boxes and selling as new on Amazon? Repacking sneakers. So you're saying that they're used, or are they buying them from, say, Marshall's, where they rip the tops off the boxes? Those boxes aren't usable. Or Famous Footwear ships them in their own Famous Footwear red box. Like that's clearly not a Nike. You wouldn't buy that straight from Nike. So the only time I think it's okay is when it's not. Let's see here. When it's like kind of like a cheaper shoe, if it's not like a really high end, right, where the box like actually adds value, like some of the high end Nike shoes, you see like the whatever. I don't even know. I don't know high end shoes enough to pick one out, but you see that where the box matters, right? You want the box in good condition, you want the shoe in good condition. If it's like some of like the cheaper Nike shoes or other shoes, right, that are a little bit cheaper. I have seen where it's a brown box. Sometimes people care, sometimes don't. If the shoe is brand new, right, that's going to be the most important. I've seen people use the brown box and then also slip a little note in there and say, this box is, or the original box was recycled. This box is eco-friendly, something like that. So it kind of looks like they meant to use a different box on purpose. That's another way to go about it. But I try to stay away from that. I try to use the manufacturing box as much as possible, but sometimes it gets damaged and your shoe's still new. It's like, you can't return it now. So what do? Try to sell it new, sell it on eBay as new. Not going to get as much on eBay. So kind of a bummer there. But that's kind of the way it is. So are you selling at Walmart yet? I am not. Definitely a good opportunity. I just kind of don't have capacity to sell on Walmart right now. Maybe in the future. Yes, exactly. Buying from Nike or Adidas from the back wall. Yeah, there's opportunity there. I would just maybe test it out, see what happens. I have done it with a couple different shoes, some cheaper shoes that I was selling, but I wouldn't do it with anything high end because you might get some IP complaints. Thanks, Angela. Thanks, Stephanie. Thank you for the live stream. Have a great week. You as well. All right. Thanks for everyone for joining. Hope you got some value out of the new Keepa feature. It's a great feature. We got to give it some time to be able to trust it, get some actual data ourselves and see and cross-check that with the actual monthly sales data. So going to be a great feature long-term. I can feel it. Otherwise, you guys have a great week. Jonathan should be on next week. So hopefully we can get, some good discussion back and forth. But anyway, we'll see you guys next week.